There's new generations of kids that don't even know what a guy on a horse looks like.
Aren't there enough of you, or Robert Duvall, people like you that can't get together and maybe get something done?
Yeah, but it's not about us.
Really?
It's not about us, but it's about Hollywood. And that was my dad and his friends.
Right.
Those are the men that I grew up going fishing and, spending time with.
Yeah.
And they were all pretty hardcore. They were gentlemen. I mean, they weren't assholes.
Hollywood loves to celebrate its bold new takes on old classics, but when it comes to the American West, Sam Elliott isn't buying the woke transformation. He's had enough of Hollywood's glamorized portrayals that, in his view, miss the mark on authenticity and American values. Elliott's outspoken critique of his recent blockbuster sent shockwaves through the industry. He's challenging what he sees as a distortion of the American West and the kind of masculinity it once celebrated. Elliott doesn't hold back when he talks about the power of the dog.
He's just a man. Only another man.
He feels the film presents a skewed, almost alien view of masculinity in the American West, a place he grew up respecting. To him, the cowboys in this movie don't look or act like the tough, rugged men he knew. They seem more like caricatures than genuine figures of the frontier. Elliott famously compared them to Chippendales dancers, adding that Hollywood seems out of touch with the real spirit of the West.
Evisceration of the American West. I mean, they made it look like, what are all those dancers, those guys in New York that wear bow ties and not much else? Remember them from back in the day?
Oh, the Chippendales?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what all these fucking cowboys in that movie look like.
For him, this isn't just about a single film. It's about how the genre he loves is changing in ways he doesn't recognize. Growing up surrounded by people who embodied the classic cowboy values of strength, resilience, and independence, Elliott's critique comes from a deeply personal place. He's not just lamenting a new type of Western. He's watching an iconic part of American culture, the cowboy mythos, shift into something else entirely. To him, this shift from grit and hardship to a softer, more glamorous version of the West undermines everything that Western films have traditionally represented. Elliott's criticism reflects his belief that the cowboy archetype stands for more than just a cinematic character. It's a symbol of toughness, independence, and enduring values. Elliott's frustration with the power of the dog reflects a broader trend he sees in Hollywood, where tradition is often rewritten to align with modern agendas. Elliott feels that films today turn the classic themes of Westerns upside down, adding new layers that to him don't represent the West's values. For him, the American West is about survival, resilience, and moral codes that don't bend to every trend. He's frustrated by what he sees as Hollywood adapting these values to fit narratives that he believes don't belong there.
I just think all of this shit coming out into the public awareness is the best thing that's happened to Hollywood in a long time.
Absolutely. And you think it'll affect actual change?
Yeah, I mean, how can it not? I mean, once you've given that kind of strength that this unveiling has given to a given population, the women of the world.
For Elliott, a true Western isn't about glamorized shots or intellectualized characters. It's about men and women fighting the elements and each other in a raw, often brutal landscape. He's disappointed that the spirit of the American West, which he feels was based on straightforward values and survival, is being replaced by narratives that glamorize or intellectualize it beyond recognition. He questions why Hollywood feels the need to reinterpret these values instead of celebrating them for what they were.
And the myth is that they were these, macho men out there with the cattle.
Yeah.
I'd just come from fucking Texas where I was hanging out with families, not men, but families.
Yeah.
Big, long, extended, multiple generation families that made their living and their lives were all about being cowboys.
Yeah.
Where are we in this world today?
I don't know that that's the biggest issue at hand.
It's not the biggest issue at hand, no, but it's for me, it was the only issue. But where's the Western? Where's the Western in this Western?
One of the most talked about aspects of Elliott's critique was his reaction to the homoerotic themes in The Power of the Dog. He openly expressed his view that these themes felt out of place and added more for shock value than for narrative depth. His critique sparked sparked significant backlash, with critics accusing him of being homophobic or out of touch with modern sensibilities. Elliott's point, however, wasn't meant as an attack on representation, but rather as a critique of what he saw as Hollywood using identity elements as a storytelling device rather than a meaningful addition. Despite the intense backlash, Elliott stood by his belief that such elements weren't necessary to tell a compelling Western story. He insists that his critique wasn't against any particular group, but against what he views as Hollywood's choice to prioritize trends over authenticity. In his eyes, the American West has enough drama, hardship, and intrigue to stand on its own, without the need to add layers that feel out of place. Elliott feels the West deserves to be portrayed with the grit and honesty that he grew up admiring, not reshaped to fit today's demands for shock or cultural statements. Elliott's frustrations with the film go beyond its themes. He was also baffled by the choice to shoot The Power of the Dog in New Zealand.
And why in the fuck does she shoot this movie in New Zealand and call it Montana?
It's good. This movie.
And say, this is the way it was.
This got you, this movie.
So that fucking rubbed me the wrong way, pal.
For him, making a movie about the American West in another country robs the film of its authenticity and distances it from the landscapes that define the genre. Elliott feels that filming on American soil isn't just a detail, it's a critical part of the film's soul. He believes that the genre loses something essential when it's divorced from the land it was built on. In his eyes, setting the story against a foreign backdrop cheapens the experience for audiences who expect to see the rugged terrains and vast vistas iconic to Westerns. Elliott's perspective highlights the deep connection between the Western genre and the American landscape, and he's disappointed that Hollywood chose to prioritize production logistics over cultural context. He argues that by removing the genre from its native soil, Hollywood is diluting the power and authenticity of the Western.
There's all these allusions to homosexuality throughout the fucking movie.
Yeah. I think that's what the movie's about.
And you say, this is the way it was.
Following his comments, Elliott's words went viral, sparking a storm of criticism across social media. Headlines labeled him out of touch, with many accusing him of being homophobic or dismissive of diversity in film. The backlash was fierce, with both fans and critics weighing in on whether his views were outdated or if they held a legitimate critique of Hollywood's direction. Despite his extensive career and reputation as a respected figure in Hollywood, Elliott's words quickly became a divisive topic, highlighting the gap between traditional values and modern expectations in the entertainment industry. Social media, in Elliott's case, became a platform for a cultural clash, one that often pits traditional perspectives against Hollywood's evolving narratives. The reaction was swift, with voices on both sides either condemning or defending him. This kind of polarized response shows just how quickly any public figure's opinion can turn into a national conversation. Elliott, however, has remained steadfast in his stance, making it clear that he's not interested in conforming to Hollywood's current trends just for the sake of approval. Amid the heated reactions, Elliott ultimately decided to issue a public apology. He expressed regret if his words hurt members of the LGBTQ+ community, clarifying that his intent was never to attack anyone personally.
I can only say that I'm sorry. And I am.
His apology was received with mixed feelings. Some saw it as a sign of personal growth, while others felt he had simply caved to industry pressure. This split response highlights the polarized nature of Hollywood, where even an apology can't necessarily smooth over a controversy. To his supporters, his words showed a willingness to reconcile. To his critics, the apology seemed reluctant and insincere.
Were you surprised by Sam Elliott's comments?
I think Sam... Look, what can I say? I'm sorry, he was being a little bit of a bitch.
Elliott's apology didn't erase the controversy, but it added a new layer to the conversation. The public's mixed response showed that even an apology can't always satisfy today's divided climate. To his fans, his apology signaled respect for those he may have unintentionally hurt, while others remained skeptical, seeing it as a necessary step in navigating Hollywood's pressures. This incident underscores the difficulty of staying authentic in an industry that increasingly demands conformity to a particular set of values. In the end, Elliott's critique isn't just about the power of the dog or even Hollywood's current state. It's part of a larger, ongoing narrative of cultural shift within the industry. As traditional ideals clash with modern values, figures like Elliott represent a Hollywood that feels increasingly out of step with today's progressive trends.
Vilified, you're targeted, your career's over. And Hollywood actually sets trends, it sets culture. And this is really a cultural battle. We have to make it acceptable once again to disagree with each other and to have...
For actors and filmmakers who value these more conventional ideas, Hollywood's current trajectory can feel like a betrayal of the values they've spent their lives representing. Elliott's critiques and the backlash that followed highlight the deep divide within Hollywood. On one side, there's a push to broaden the types of stories told on screen and to redefine traditional narratives. On the other, there's a desire to preserve the genre's legacy and authenticity. Elliott's perspective showcases the difficulties in finding a balance between staying relevant and staying true to a genre's origins. His words represent more than just an opinion on a film. They're part of a broader cultural conversation on how far Hollywood should go in adapting iconic narratives.
Women in this town have been put upon by the men in this business the way they have for so long. And that's not to say that it's not a two-way street for some. You know, there's a lot of girls who get into this game and they'll do anything to survive and thrive. But there's also a bunch of innocents that come to town that are just ground up by it. And
Sam Elliott's critique of The Power of the Dog was more than just a review of a film. It was a rallying cry for those who feel Hollywood has strayed from its roots. He remains a voice for traditionalists who believe that the American West deserves to be portrayed with respect, authenticity, and an unfiltered look at its harsh realities. To Elliott, Hollywood's current path may be leaving some of its most iconic genres behind, reshaping them to fit ideals that feel out of sync with their origins. Elliott's story is a reminder that Hollywood's journey is as much about preserving history as it is about embracing change. His views may not align with the new Hollywood, but they resonate deeply with those who long for stories that stay true to their roots. Whether or not you agree with him, Elliott's critique asks us to think about where we draw the line between honoring tradition and adapting to modern sensibilities. So what's your take on Sam Elliott's stance on Hollywood's direction? Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more insights from the voices who aren't afraid to challenge the wokeness in today's entertainment world.